Welcome back to Love, Life, and Legacy, the podcast dedicated to helping you navigate these hypersexualized times. And in today's episode, Benji and I are talking about feelings. That's right, folks, feelings. Benji and I have feelings. First of all, I'll be the first to admit it. And we want to help you understand how to process feelings. There is a process, and we offer a very practical process to how to handle difficult, strong emotions, but also how to maintain healthy, productive emotions that allow you to live the life that you're wanting, the life that is beckoning, the high noon life that is just scratching at your door. And so let's talk about feelings, everybody. Let's go. Welcome back, everybody. How are you feeling today? Benji, how are you feeling? Yeah, let's talk about your feelings.
I don't know how I'm feeling. So let's get into that. I don't know how I'm feeling.
You're not in tune with your feelings. This is a problem, Benji. I'm feeling sad about your feelings.
Oh, okay.
We're going to actually really genuinely talk about feelings today. But we got to talk about our jokes about our feelings because I think there's a European workshop recently, and Andronic gave us a report about it, and it was classic young people, like high school, middle school kind of age group, where you look at the woman's side of the room, the young ladies, and they're like crying, sharing, and then you look at the guys, and they're like burping and farting and joking around, doing anything but talking about their feelings. Yep. You ever experienced that, Benji?
Yeah. I mentioned it to you, I think. But we were at a Camp Shahakwa, and they were all doing a testimony night, and all the sitting around a campfire, and all the girls were like the same age as my kids, 8, 9, 10 years old, and they're all coming up. Milhan's daughter, Ayumi, and Josh Angelucci's daughter, Young A, and a bunch of girls. There's all the girls stood up and shared how their experience with the workshop was, and look at the boys, and they're all trading Pokemon cards by the campfire, and it was like a clear, distinctive pinpoint memory where I was like, okay, like I had to try really hard, Andrew, not to feel like, oh my
rage.
Gosh, like, what are we doing? What are we doing here? These boys are just
Yeah, it's not that boys don't have feelings. It's just I think a lot of it is they're busy. They're busy bodies, right? They like gotta move. It's been super rainy out here. I mean, it's rainy season, but rainy season usually has sunny days. But it's been like 4 consecutive pouring rainy all day kind of days, and so the boys have been inside. Pretty hardcore. I took them out bowling once just to break it up because there's too much energy in our house that I couldn't fathom. Like I couldn't sit. There's so much energy. You know what I mean? So like they have to move their bodies. That's why school is so much harder for boys and girls. And girls, I think, are just much more still in terms of like their resonance with themselves, and boys just have to first. But then this happened with, I was trying to do a husbands group in Colorado, and I was like, let's go talk about, how we're feeling about our marriages and our kids and all that. And people didn't even respond to my email, like nothing. And so then I was like, okay, I'll try a different approach. Let's go play basketball. And they're like, oh, yo, that sounds good. And what happened was I didn't try to force anything. We played basketball, and then there happened to be a hot tub there. So we all went to the hot tub. And that's when, the people started talking about stuff. But first they had to get into their bodies and like get that energy out, and then they want to talk about it.
It's just different. We have to, we can't talk about emotions and feelings without talking about that fundamental difference between men and women generally. I remember Andrew giving a talk in New Jersey, and it was the first time that I boldly made this statement that men are generally worse at dealing with emotions productively than women are. Okay. And I said it very carefully. I was like, generally speaking, women are less susceptible to addiction, partly in part because they're generally better at dealing with emotions than men are, and we kind of just want to squash our emotions. All right, so I said that in New Jersey, and I had at least a few women come up to me afterwards and say, Benji, you have no idea what you're talking about.
How dare
like,
you?
like you have no idea how difficult it is to be a woman with emotions. And I was like, all right, I'm not gonna make that statement ever again. And the reason for that is because, like you're saying, Andrew, everyone's emotional. We all have feelings, like across the board. It's just that, well, one, we have this kind of societal view on men that we're not emotional. It's just, I think, number one, we're good at hiding it, but also we're good at squashing it. And of course, there are a lot of women that experience that as well. And so it's kind of a helpful frame. I think more for men, it's helpful to understand that, like, generally speaking, we're better at numbing ourselves, and women are better at just kind of like, who can I talk to? I mean, my wife's first reaction to anger or stress is like, who can I talk to? And my first feeling, usually, I'm better at now, is like, how can I stop feeling this? Whatever this is.
Or which wall can I talk to with my fist?
Yes. Yeah. Actually, just a pin in that. I actually punched a hole in my wall when I was a teenager. I should add that.
That's a very important point. Not last week.
When I was a teenager, there's a hole in my bedroom, and my dad had the funnest response ever. He drew a picture of a fist going through a wall, and he covered the hole with a picture, and then he entitled it Benji's Angry Fist, something like that. And then it was like the best like way for a dad to deal with that kind of situation. Of course, I felt horrible, like punching a freaking wall, the drywall. But
yeah, you just don't hear about that. So, I mean, there is an amazing book called The Boy Crisis. I've delved into it. It's like, if you look at jails are all the violent crimes in society are men. All the rapes, all that stuff, it's all men. It's like 99%, 98%.
Addiction too,
This is all pent up, unchecked aggression. It's aggression that comes from this stirring within the man. All assassination attempts and all that, like this from men. Unabombers, terrorists, ISIS are not accepting applications from women. You know, this is the male spirit of like, we don't know where to funnel our energy and our emotions. So we're just going to take it out on the world. And that was me in high school. It's like, I had all these things swirling around in me, debilitating awkwardness, because like I have these feelings and nowhere to put them. Just put it into destroying every structure that I could find, including, that's why I got into skateboarding, because skateboarding was like, you know, this pre-packaged, back in the day, there's no skate parks. It's just like you go downtown and you just destroy monuments or, you know, whatever rail or staircase or whatever, and people yell at you, you yell back. It's like, it comes with a character. It's this preordained, you know, you get the clothes, the music, everything. It's already set up for you. And and music back then, I'm sure it's still very similar. Punk and ska was all about going and just to a concert and pushing each other a lot, and kind of hugging, but really kind of punching, or, you know, whatever. There's this mixed bag of emotions. And so we need to talk about this, because for women, any women listening, you have to understand, we cannot speak for you, but we can speak for the male side of a relationship. And if you're listening to this, either on track to or already in a blessing. So it's really important to understand what you're contending with, because otherwise you have this mysterious creature who you have a fight, and then they go play video games. You're like, what is this person made out of stone? It's like, no, he just doesn't know how to talk about his emotions, right? So we want to talk about that. And then we also really want to get into how to understand your emotions, because I swear to God, like, I've been eating so well, and we went out and we just really had a disgusting meal. It was really greasy burgers and fries, and immediately my stomach was like, meh, 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 and it just hurt. And I was like, oh, what's this pain? And of course I know all about inflammation caused by certain oils and certain foods because your body's reacting. It's sending you a signal. Please don't do this, right? Emotionally, it's the same thing. Is when you have rage, when you have sadness, it's your body and your heart and your mind all kind of working together to tell you something. And unless you listen to the message that it's trying to tell you, you just believe the emotion. I'm just angry.
Yeah.
And that's all you learn, is that you got angry. So we want to unpack all this. Have you noticed any trends, Benji, in the guys that you're taking care of, about their emotional state, what they're contending with?
Yeah, I think the first, that's a great question, Andrew. The first thing that comes to mind is that one of the initial barriers that men and women have to get over is to stop labeling all emotions as bad.
Yeah.
And it's so common but so blatantly obviously false. Like, I feel bored and that's bad. It's like, no, like you're saying, there is a hint, something's trying to signal to you to do something, or I feel lonely and that's bad. And so the resulting actions that follow usually are play more video games so I don't feel bored, right?
Sure.
It's like, okay, that's a way of probably a million things you could do, but it is not, it's like eating junk food when you're hungry. Same thing, you know? I feel like that's the first hurdle. That's like a big aha moment for a lot of people. It's like, oh, I have sex drive and that's not evil. Oh my goodness. Right. But we've been kind of, I don't want to say not completely conditioned, but there's this kind of narrative in culture and society is like, if you're feeling these things, it's bad. There's something wrong with you and you should be medicated because of you're feeling lonely or bored or stressed or anxious or lonely or whatever the thing is, or sad or angry. But it's just like, okay, cool. What are you going to do with it? Because we've always felt those emotions forever since the beginning of human history. And we've just never, perhaps the only situation we can explain is like, we've just never learned how to deal with that emotion yet. And that's okay. We can figure it out. And so that's kind of the next stage is like, oh, I go to unwanted behaviors like go on my phone all the time or binge watch stuff or go to porn when I'm feeling bored or stressed. All right, well, let's figure out how to deal with boredom and stress in a more productive way. And I've seen a lot of guys just have so much victory for just that realization alone and taking that turn.
Yeah. There's a guy that is in one of the podcasts is going to come out soon about, his name is Gabor Mate. I think you should know about him, but he's an addiction specialist. And he was talking about how even something like ADHD is a response to stress. It's not a genetic disorder. There's no evidence of that. But they don't understand it. And so many people are being diagnosed with it, but actually his assertion is that it is when you are overwhelmed, as a coping mechanism, you can't focus. Because if you focus on the pain, it'll be too much for your heart. So your heart protects itself by scattering your brain to a billion different things. Be like, let's look over here. Let's look over here. Let's not talk about this, right? And so it's a fear response, which is bananas, right? So yeah, absolutely. This idea that to look at your patterns of how you deal with strong emotions is largely going to determine a big chunk of your fate. Not everything, but that filters into your job, right? It filters into your marriage. It filters into how you parent. Filters into, like, do you face your fears or not? Do you face difficult people or not? And when you set up yourself to be able to be okay with complicated feelings and to have a system to work through them, meaning the help from other people, meditation, reflection, things that we can offer maybe later in the episode, then you're setting yourself up to be unstoppable and you can graduate to the next level. Otherwise, you're just stuck. Yeah. And like, what does that look like? That looks like the boss who isn't this classic old bosses is there raging on their employees. I said you do this. Like, that guy is just a child inside a big person's body. It's really tricky to see. It's tricky to see because when you look at an adult, you're like, oh, it's an adult. And it's hard to measure how old they are internally in terms of their emotions. But when you see a woman who's uncontrollably, I don't know, depressed, or even anger herself, or withholding, or a man who's the same. It's just that they're stuck. They're stuck and they haven't graduated. And so this is an invitation for everybody to learn how to graduate to the next kind of layer of your own life, which is only accessible through processing emotions. And I just had some really heated arguments with my wife this past week, and a lot of stuff came out, and we're gonna do an episode in a couple weeks about running away, this desire to want to run away. But there's a very strong sense of wanting to escape when you get slapped in the face with emotions.
Yeah.
Like all of us is like, I don't want to deal with this. And it can come, and that has to be acknowledged. Is like, it doesn't go away. But it's whether you can just stand there and kind of sit in it and be like, let's talk about this. I'm not going to run away from these feelings. I'm going to sort through them. But so, like, for little kids, I've already done this kind of work with my own kids. It's like when somebody's in an emotion, like, okay, what's going on? What are you feeling? What are you feeling? So this is the first thing: is what are you feeling? For everybody listening, not just for kids, what are you feeling? And why that's so important as a starting point is that if you can start to identify what you're feeling, then you stop being the emotion and you start to objectify it. I'm feeling this, and if you can do it. Now you're much more kind of in your head and you're less possessed in your heart, because emotions can possess your heart and you can do all sorts of stuff. Imagine your heart takes over and it's rage. It's very clear that the brain shuts down when you're in a state of rage. You can't think, which is why road rage, they're not thinking, right? They're completely possessed. Their hands, their legs, their mouth, everything is being controlled by the rage emotion, which is taken over the circuit board of the heart. And it's like, just, that I love the Inside Out. It's such a great depiction of that. When anger's in charge, it's like you're raging. Yeah. And so the moment that you can identify, wait, what am I feeling now? I'm feeling this emotion. That's the starting point.
Yeah. Inside Out. This is interesting. Okay. So just 2 days ago, I watched Inside Out 2 with my kids, Andrew.
Mm-hmm.
And after I saw that, I decided I'm going to be the anti-Inside Out guy for the rest of my life. I decided. Because when I watch a movie with my kids, if I don't like it, I'll just go like, yeah, okay. I'll let them have their experience. But this one, I was like, all right, I'm going to put my foot down. I'm going to be outspoken about this. Anyways, I just think that's funny you brought that up. And the only reason is because it's too real. Like a well-made movie, it's just like, it's real. It's just so real. And I was like, oh my gosh, this is, like watching Zootopia is basically just about racism. My goodness, like this is too on the nose. So I think we're getting into some really important kind of structures and frameworks for identifying emotions, especially when you're feeling it, because that's when it is the hardest. That's when you need to do something, like talk with someone, like meditate, like pray, like take a walk, all the things that are infinitely healthier than going to a phone. But it's also those are the last things we want to do when we're in that state. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So that's been like my kind of question on my heart for myself, but also to help other people. Like when you really don't want to do it, how do you develop the muscle to do that?
Yeah, first of all, you need to hang around people that can help to remind you. But then it's really just like anything else. It's a muscle. Because even I have a bent towards anxiety, and that lends itself to almost like hypochondria in a sense, where I'm like, oh my God, I think I'm having a heart attack but it's just my heart palpitating because I'm anxious. And then I have to calm everything down and be like, okay, what's actually going on? What are the facts of this case? So it's like slowing things down a bit. So the idea is, as much as possible, can you intercept the reaction in your life? Can you slow down and just take a breath and be like, okay, what's going on? And if you're experiencing like a deep sadness, if you're experiencing anger, anxiety, lust, even these kind of things, it's like taking a breath and first figuring out what are the facts of this situation. because you cannot make a rational decision unless you know which way is up or down. And when you're totally wrapped up in an emotion, there is no up and down. There's just the feeling. It's like tunnel vision. It's like an addict. There's no better word. You're possessed by this emotion. And how you break that spell is you stop for a second and you be like, what's going on? So I would just implore everybody to do that with less intense emotions building up. Just like stop throughout your day and be like, what's going on? Because even, think about this, Benji. We're talking about strong emotions, but what about just being tired, right? Mm-hmm. Or what about these people that report to us, oh, I just, want to watch YouTube right now. It's like, okay, stop. Take a breath. The answers are not going to come from YouTube. Just stop. Take a breath and figure out what's going on. What are you feeling? I feel like the more that you can practice that on a smaller scale, the more that you can kind of start to bring that in to life more. Because this happened to us, Benji, on a call 2 days ago in our staff meeting where I was getting intense with your brother and your brother was getting very intense with me, right? And I was getting wrapped up in the emotion, kind of defending myself in this. And then I stopped for a second. I was like, what's going on here? And then I remembered, wait a second, debates are healthy, but not if I take them personally. We believe in High Noon that such arguments are necessary for good ideas to come out. That's what we learned from Good to Great, but not if we are kind of being insecure, protecting our ego and this kind of thing. So I stopped even in a conversation and just took a breath and reassessed where am I at in this conversation? And it really helped me to kind of break a certain cycle within myself. So you can do that in real time, but it's harder to just go straight to like, okay, the next time you feel like punching somebody in the face, just stop and breathe, because you need a habit of doing that in smaller ways first. Okay, so next time you're feeling bored, stop and breathe. Next time you're feeling sexual, like horny, stop and breathe. So stop and breathe is, I guess, a process of finding some sort of stillness, assessing what's going on, what am I feeling? Again, the first thing is what am I feeling? And then the second thing is why am I feeling this? Those are the main facts that you need to understand. The feeling and then where you think it came from. Like, why am I feeling this thing right now? If it's anger, where did this anger just come from?
Yeah. I dig it. I love it. I love breathing. I never really understood the concept of breathing or meditating. Like if we kind of put them in a similar container,
Sure.
breathing and meditating. And since I started doing it, I realized for me, it's like going to the gym for my brain, for my mind. That's how I see it.
Yeah.
And so breathing is kind of like going to the gym for your mind. And I use the analogy because when you initially start hitting the gyms or hitting heavier weights, it can be unpleasant physically, or running maybe is an example people can relate to. I don't like running, but
I hate running.
Eventually, if you do any exercise enough, it becomes easier, and the threshold of ease becomes easier, and eventually your body wants to do it as opposed to not wanting to do it. So you prefer to do the thing that's harder than not do the thing, right? So you can talk to any like runners, for example, like die hard runners, like true runners. They can't go a day. They can't sit still. They just are just. I was on a road trip with a guy who was a real runner, and we stopped at a gas station. He would run the whole time we were at the gas station. Just get out,
what a
run
fiend.
out the door. Yeah, so it's like, so for breathing or internalizing, introspecting, talking, connecting with people, it's a form of introspection that takes time to, not time, but it takes practice. And you kind of get stronger and stronger to the point where you just know for a fact from experience that you're going to feel better if you do it than squashing, Yeah. It's like you will feel better going to the gym than not. And that's why I want to go.
And that analogy really works because if your mind is weak and your heart can take over your mind, then you have no way of pushing back against these assumptions that your heart is making.
Hey guys, it's Benji. Please don't skip this ad. Okay, I need your attention for a second because we are in a season of giving right now as I'm speaking. It's Giving Tuesday, it's Christmas, it's Thanksgiving. And if you have benefited from High Noon at all in your life, please let us know. And also, if you love what we do, I don't think anyone on the planet is doing what we're doing, trying to create radiant blessings through sexual integrity and absolute sex. If you love what we do, I want to ask you to become a monthly donor to High Noon. We're still a nonprofit. It could look as simple as $10 a month. It makes a massive difference when we put our wallets together and we can contribute together to something really, truly beautiful for God. And so if that's you, then go to highnoon.org if you want to give something. If you've been wanting to contribute something, or you felt that you want to give back, then this is your chance. Go to highnoon.org/donate, or you can go down in the description somewhere in this episode and become a donor. All right, see ya.
When we strengthen our minds, it connects the pathways between our minds and our hearts. So they are the most important system in our body. In order to be a functional person, is you have to have a mind and heart that are going in the same direction. It creates inner peace. That's what meditation has shown itself to do. And now there's like a lot of science to back this up, but that's why this idea of inner peace, again, kids movies references, that's like my world, is Kung Fu Panda. They always talk about inner peace. It's so funny. And that inner peace is this sense of ease within your body. So what do we always talk about, Benji? We talk about creating a life that you don't want to run away from. Well, breathing and focusing your mind and reconnecting your mind to your heart so that they can learn how to talk to each other, that your heart can be like, report to your mind. So this guy did this and this guy did this. And your mind can be like, oh, that's okay. It's going to be okay. And then you calm your heart down. You can calm your heart down from an anxiety attack with your mind, not with your heart. You have to like focus your mind to tell your heart needs information. It needs guidance. It's like this very enthusiastic young person that doesn't have a mentor. So the mind needs to be the mentor for the heart. And all that's possible. It starts by breathing. So breathing calms down the body. Sorts out a little bit more the rhythm of your heart, and then you have access to your brain again. But now when you're freaking out, when you're having an anxiety attack filled with rage and depression, you can't think. You're just in your heart 100%. You start to breathe, start to calm your body down, calm your heart down. Picture your heart as just this really excited, over exuberant character. You're calming them down. It's going to be shh. You're doing that with breathing. And now your brain has a little bit more of like a say. It starts to exert its opinion and say, hey, it's going to be okay. And what's going on? And we start having this conversation between the mind and the heart. And then all of a sudden you can start to figure out what's going on with the heart. What's it feeling? Why does it feel that way? And then the brain can start to guide it back to peace in the short term. This is all in the short term, right? And in the long term, it's much better to have a relationship with your North Star goal. Because you're like, hey, like the mind talking to the heart is like, hey, little buddy, who did we say we were going to be today, little guy? We were going to be strong, right? And the heart's like, yeah, we're going to be strong, right? And you have to kind of like guide it, not by what a lot of people do. Like you're saying, they think emotions are bad. So they're like, bad heart, you're angry. And that just makes the heart feel even worse. And then it starts being more chaotic, right? But what brings peace is by kind of cajoling it back, just kind of bringing it back. Hey, buddy, remember, I'm here for you. We've got a vision. Remember the vision? You're excited about the vision. The first time we thought about the vision, you were beating like crazy because you're so excited about reaching this goal. How do you feel about that? And like, you can bring it back. But it's hard if you don't have an emotional relationship with your North Star goal. If it's just like, oh, I want to be rich, likely it's not connected to any emotion. So it's important that the things that drive you are, you have some emotional connection to.
Yep. That's mind-body unity, yo. That's right.
Yeah. Truffaut talks so much about it, but
it was a total mistranslation too.
Well, what was it originally?
I think however the DP was translated in English, it's heart-body unity. So in this sense, the mind would be the body, right? Like the brain is the physical manifestation, and the heart is the spirit. So the actual Hancha characters for mind-body unity, as we call it, is heart. Like Shin, you know, or mom, mom. So mom is body, mom is heart. It's nothing to do with mind. Yeah.
Yeah. Honestly, having core beliefs is things that you actually really believe in is such an integral part of this too. So I want to cut to when we got to Bali back in the day. We were there for just a few weeks before the world shut down. When we were going, I remember very clearly, we were in Malaysia in the airport. People were starting to wear masks. We're like, oh, look at these guys. What are they doing, right? I remember touring this school. The reason we were in Malaysia in the first place, we we're going to put our kids in this school, Acton Academy out there. And I remember we took a tour of the school, and all the kids in one class were watching a video. And the video was like, a coronavirus is like, it was this cartoon explaining what a coronavirus is. We were all just hearing about this thing. By the time we got to Bali, yeah, essentially the world shut down. We couldn't leave the island, right? And so we're on this island we've never been at, starting to understand how intense this situation is. Nobody knows what's going on. Just we have to shut down the world. But you're on an island. I'm not from an island. I'm from a giant country. So kind of freaking out a little bit. And so I noticed anxiety rising, right? And so I was already really in the practice of meditating in the morning and the evening. That was already saving my life up until that point. But why I bring this up is because when I started to really get into a worried, panicked state, and my body caught that wave and started running with it, I would stop and I would breathe. But then having a core belief of really believing that I'm God's child, and and Heavenly Parent can fix me and my body, and we can do this. Like, there's nothing that's not fixable. We can find a way through. There is always a way through. Having like not a hope, but a belief that that's true was what ultimately landed me. Is like breathing grounded me, and then really sinking my teeth into the belief that it's really actually going to be okay. Not wishing and praying, but like, I know this because there is a God. And beyond all this chaos, there's a God. And that Heavenly Parent loves us. And like, that's who we are and where we're from. Grounds the spirit. And really puts you in a place where you can get back to the person you need to be. And this is true of health problems. It's true of, whatever chaos you might be experiencing in your life. But it starts with breathing and then remembering who you want to be, who you're committed to being. But then even deeper than that is who you know you are based on your beliefs, your deeply held beliefs. So the stronger your beliefs, the easier it is to have like a deep grounding. And so the more you actually believe in this idea that we are Heavenly Parent's children and we come from love, and this universe, this cosmos was built out of love, and that's where we're returning. And all this is just the process to get back to that is so reassuring, not in a juvenile way, but in a mature way. Because I know religious people get accused of pacifying themselves with these beliefs, but the reason why your spirit finds solace in it is because it's fundamentally true and it knows it. You can't trick the spirit. Like we've said in High Noon, you can trick the brain very easily. You can trick the heart pretty easily too. The body, pretty easy. Now with VR and all this, your body has no idea what's real or not, right? But your soul, your spirit, absolutely cannot be tricked. And truth feeds it and makes you strong. So remembering the truest of truths and relating, having give and take with that, grounds you. But you cannot go from emotion to grounded truth. There has to be a process of calming yourself down and then slowly remembering who you are. You're not this angry person or whatever. You're this child of God deep down. More than your personality, more than your emotions, your spirit is of God.
Yeah. So kind of taking a giant cosmic step back and observing everything, kind of, because logically we get it. And this is kind of a similar practice I do. Is just I think about space. I probably think about space more than
like outer space.
Outer space. So every night I'll go outside in our hammock and I'll look at the stars. or just at the sky if there's no stars, and I'll just take note of like how far the closest star to us besides the sun is. All right, it's 4 light years away, just over 4 light years away, trillions of miles, and I just look at it and be like, it's so far, but I can see it. That just blows my mind. And every time I just look at the sky, I'm just like my life is so small, precious, but also very small. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Like the overview effect, where astronauts go to space and they see the Earth for the first time. They describe it as simultaneously so precious, but also so insignificant. The Earth, and that's how I feel when I look at the star. I'm just like, if you were to walk to that star 4 light years, it would take 1 billion years, and that just blows my mind that I can see something that would take 1 billion years for me to walk to, you know. And it makes me emotional just thinking about the kind of cosmic scale of life and everything. So I can relate to like that groundedness of just like, I know that what I'm feeling anxious about is probably not as significant as I'm making it out to be. And
Sure.
getting to that state is really beautiful, kind of a blissful inner peace kind of place. Yeah.
Yeah, it's one of those old kind of cliches, is that kind of when you start leading a bigger life, the smaller things don't stress you out as much. So a person who has a very small life, they're stressed out by small things. Like, oh my God, you didn't do the dishes! Ah! We have neighbors out here. I don't understand what anybody's saying, right? I'm in a foreign land, but I heard something that I honestly swear to God couldn't tell if it was an animal being tortured or what it was. So I just went outside. I had this kind of like dad instinct to go outside and make sure that everything's okay. And it turned out it was this lady. It was our neighbor who was shrieking, and she was screaming at our other neighbor. And I only know these two people to be nice. We say hi a lot every time. That's all we know. They know hi, we know hi, or Xing Chao if we want to get saucy. But both nice people. She's screaming in a way that sounds like she's, completely lost her mind. And it goes on and on and on, and she's losing her mind. And now she's taking off her sandals and she's banging it against their gate, and she's screaming at them with everything I have. And I was trying to unpack this with our kids, because everybody was aware of like what is happening. And so I was trying to unpack this idea that whatever it is that they're fighting about is so small, and to react in such a big way is just a sign that you're not in a healthy place, right? Like, stress will come. We're in a stressful world, but the bigger you become spiritually, emotionally, the more that you work on yourself, the more that these small things don't matter as nearly as much, and you can get over them, these emotions that come. You graduate to the higher and higher things, to where you can take on collective stresses more, right? Like our community's struggling, or somebody over there is in the hospital. I'm going to take care of them. You can't even get to that place if you're stuck in your own personal feelings, right? And when you become a dad, Benji, or a mom, we can only speak for the dads. Your kids' feelings are your feelings. They're stressed out, you're stressed out. You inherit them, but that's why you can show them how to graduate from that stress, because if somebody in your life is stressed out or angry or frustrated, if you don't have maturity, you become like them. Their emotions consume you, and now you have two people who are depressed or angry or whatever the emotion is. And so for you to be able to work on your own emotions is then a platform for you to help people work through their emotions, because you cannot be connected to their emotions and help them. You can be empathetic, but that's like feeling your emotions in their direction. It's not being lost in their emotions. It's a very big difference. It's like what dreams may come when the guy risks going to hell and being stuck with his wife. And he's willing to do that because he loves her, but it's very easy to get lost in somebody else's deep, dark emotions. Mm-hmm. And now that's not helping them at all. Now they feel even worse, because now they've converted you to the dark side. So none of this is possible. And this is the type of work we're hoping, when you work on your sexual integrity, when you go join CORE or Ascend, what this is an opportunity for you to understand why you have these addictive traits, why you end up doing things you don't want to do. It's emotions that take you there, right? You want to leave your house and you want to go to the convenience store, but you end up in the dark haunted house known as some dark emotions. What took you there was some other emotion. It like led you down to this dark haunted house, this place that you said you'd never be again. You wanted to just go to the convenience store. So we have to understand why these emotions exist and what they're trying to teach us. They're there to be our teachers. They're not our enemies. Like Benji was saying, they're not bad. They're trying to teach you and you just don't speak their language. It doesn't make them bad. They don't know how else to tell you because we don't speak the language of our heart and our body and our mind. We just are always reacting for the most part.
I understand why people associate emotions with bad, and because the relationship we've had with them is usually based on negative experiences.
Sure.
So sex drive, for example, a beautiful emotion, a beautiful thing that God gave us. But most of the experience that people have in our age are pretty negative, especially in our circle of, high valued moral people. It's usually associated with very negative experiences and feelings of shame and all this. So I understand it. I get it. And boredom too. People are bored. They just associate that with video games and porn and goofing off online and scrolling. And it's kind of a, catch-22 in a sense. So you mentioned yesterday, or I think 2 days ago, we had that conversation.
Yeah.
I just want to unravel my experience that night. So after we had that meeting, that was a bit enthusiastic, I'd say, of a meeting.
He's a marketing guy, everybody. Marketing.
Enthusiastic meeting. So traumatizing, intense. So I went to sleep at like 1 a.m. And then I had a hard time sleeping, and I knew this is exactly what we're talking about here. I knew I should probably meditate and calm my nerves, get my brain a little orderly, but I didn't want to. It was like the last thing I wanted to do. So I watched South Park instead.
Of course.
Shout out to South Park. I watched South Park. It's my favorite thing right now. And shoot me. And then I fell asleep while watching South Park. And then I woke up at 4:30 a.m. because my heart was racing. And all the just mind was going, just random thoughts about work and everything, right? The conversations we were having. And I couldn't sleep for an hour. And I eventually fell asleep after an hour of tossing and turning. And then I woke up and I was like, my first thought was, this is going to be a terrible day. That's the first thing. It wasn't like I was deciding. It was just like, in a way I was deciding. I was like, today is going to be a terrible day. And I labeled it like that. And I took the kids to their appointment at 7 a.m. because I had to wake up then. And then got to the office. And then I was like, I'm going to call Hitoe because I know that that's the right thing to do, is to call someone and talk. So I called Hitoe. She's at home, right? And I was out. And she was busy because she was holding our 2-year-old, and so she wasn't in a place to listen. And I was like, can you just listen to me for 5 minutes so I can talk? And she's like, sure, but she's holding a baby. And it's like, okay, it's just not working. So I told her, I'll message you. I'll send you a text message. And so I sent her a very, very long text message explaining kind of why I was grumpy that morning and why I didn't sleep last night. And then basically kind of unraveling the anxiety I was feeling from lots of stuff, not just the conversations, but just things recently in our family with our kids. And then as soon as I did it and sent that text message, she responded very quickly and she said, I get it. That's it. She's like, I get it. I understand, like that. And that just completely healed my anxiety in the moment. It turned a completely terrible day, as I labeled it, into a great feeling of just gratitude and bliss. That's the word I would express. Like, this feels blissful, and I feel really and I was kind of making mental note that that's really the experience we want. Is the fork in the road we talk about in High Noon is like, do I isolate or do I connect in this moment when I'm feeling the first micro feelings that usually lend me towards my North Star or towards isolating myself. That's like, do I connect or isolate? And isolating for me would have been, I'm just going to watch more South Park or to just go start working without figuring out my stuff. And then, but I was like, no, I'm going to connect. So I sent that message, and that was a big turning point. I was just like, it kind of proved to me that it's possible to go from just completely terrible feeling into just feeling grateful and alive, you know? So that was I think that was yesterday. Yeah, that was yesterday.
Yeah. Yeah, it really, you got to deal with the thing that's bothering you. Can't numb it. It'll just keep on bothering. It doesn't forget. It's not going to let you forget. I've had, I wanted to just get some acupuncture, and there's a good place close to here. So I went there and I had a good experience. And then I went back, and they want me to keep on coming back. But I was just basically asking, like, what do you think is going on? And because I was struggling a little bit with sleep, but also just like feeling a little bit off. And there's something in traditional medicine that's essentially like your heart is disturbed because you think too much. This is like an actual thing. And she's like, basically you think too much. And I was like, how? She doesn't speak my language. She doesn't know me at all. I was like, well, obviously I think too much. Like, but so there's, for me, it's like, and my wife told me too, she's like, stop thinking so much. You think too much. It's like, okay, let me just go ahead and stop thinking. Like I don't know. It's not possible.
Okie dokie.
But one thing that I can do is I can focus my thoughts more. And so I realized that I've been out of the practice of really consistent meditation morning and evening that are of a certain type that I need. And there's a different type for everybody out there, but it makes a world of difference. Yeah. Finding your exercise, like Benji was saying, what it is I can't stop thinking, but you can exercise your mind to think in the right direction. Because just thinking all over the place, they call it monkey brain or different things like that. It just is exhausting. It exhausts you mentally and emotionally. And then you're useless, or you're a lot less effective in life. So things like don't caffeinate yourself. That gives anxiety a lot. Things like just learn how to breathe and stuff like that is a game changer. And so in terms of your feelings, everybody, I guess the main message of this episode is to not let your emotions dominate you. You need to, in the short term, catch yourself, take a breath, and try to ask yourself, what are you feeling and why? And then figure out the most appropriate response to that situation. And then long term, it's exercising your mind so that it can interject and guide your heart more often according to the vision of who you want to be. And this gets to the point where when you exercise through meditation, certain feelings, and that becomes your default self, you start to notice when you go back to these other emotions like anger or whatever, you can see it coming from a mile away. And you're like, I'm starting to feel angry right now. It's not like you have to stop it after it started. It's like you can see it coming because it's so foreign to you. You've made your body a place where anger doesn't have a residency. It's like a guest, right? And it knows that it's a guest. I think for a lot of people, these strong emotions, they feel like it's their home. Like, what are you doing here? Like a bully who just comes in and takes what it wants and then leaves. But when you create your body into a true sanctuary, which is our calling from the days of Jesus, let alone true parents who are talking about like really having mind-body unity, the essence of that is that your entire being, your mind, your heart, your body, your spirit is a dwelling place for Heavenly Parent. And anybody else that comes along, any anger, depression, whatever, they have a hall pass. And you let them know that they're welcome to visit, but don't get too comfortable because you're going to work on it and then you're going to move on to wherever else you need to go. But this is not your home. And that's a different experience of life. But you really do have to condition yourself to make yourself a dwelling place of God. And that's a lot of intentionality.
Yeah, that's great. That's great. I'm curious if people want us to talk more about meditating, kind of being still, breathing, that kind of stuff.
Yeah. Let us know. If you've made it this far, you obviously have a lot of mental focus because you can listen to a podcast in its entirety. Anyway, yeah. please let us know. We want to help you sort through your feelings so that you can pick and choose the feelings that you want to focus on and build, and to diminish the ones that are not serving you, the ones that are hurting you. And this is all on the table. It's all possible when you live a high noon life. So thank you, Benji. Any last words?
Yeah, that was great. Thank you. This is good.
Yeah.
I hope that people just feel like Andrew and I are normal. Like the process of, I had someone recently ask me like, when will I just be happy? Right? He was like, well, he looked at me and he's like, oh, you're so happy. You've got the, family and the kids and everything. He's like, when will I just be happy? And I had to really give a sincere answer. I couldn't just be like, cliche. And so what I told him is that it's about having more and more positive days and moments than negative, and then stringing together those moments. And then you'll have a bad day once a week, and then you'll have a bad day once a month, and then every 2 months, and then you'll have a bad week, and then you'll learn to manage it. But that's what progress looks like. It's like not trying to aim for this kind of moving target of a goal of when I get to the top of the mountain, I'll be happy. You just kind of decide that today I'm going to be who I want to be. And then you course correct and you string together more and more of those days until you are who you want to be,
Yeah.
And what I tell myself, and this is kind of my, I guess, wisdom for the day, is if I can't be happy today, then I never will. And that's what I say to myself all the time. So if I can't be happy today, I never will. If I can't experience God right now, today, then I never will. Because it breaks this fundamental belief that I used to have of, like, when I have this, or when I do this, when I experience this, then I'll be happy, then I'll experience God, then I'll feel like what inner peace, whatever mind, body unity that High Noon Life is talking about. But if I can't do that, regardless of the chaos and the emotions I'm feeling right now today, then I probably never will. And so I might as well try that today.
Yeah. That's citizenship of Chanelguk, is when it's your native land, right? I think most people who think that they're going to Chanelguk are really going to be just guests, because they don't know how to create Chanelguk in their own hearts. Where do you think it starts? It starts in your heart. So the people who are actual citizens are the ones who they're the owners of Chanelguk, and they own it because they can create it wherever they go. If you can't create it wherever you go, and life is conditional upon circumstances, you're not the owner. You are a guest. So yeah, let's be owners, folks.
Hey, did you know that our team wants to do more events? Well, if you want to bring the High Noon message to your community or group, then let us know and we'll try to work something out. There's a simple application that you can fill out right now at highnoon.org/invite. And one of our team members will get back to you to see what's possible. That's highnoon.org/invite. All right, see you in the next episode.